بخير كلام سبائك للبخاري مخلدة على الأيام.
Speaking English ke atau Arabi? كلها ممكن إن شاء الله. نحن طلاب الجامعة العالمية الإسلامية بماليزيا، نحن نتكلم بثلاثة لغات إن شاء الله. Jadi tanpa membuang masa, saya menjemput panel yang pertama, Al-Fadhil Ustaz saya, guru saya. Yang kedua. Panel yang kedua, Al-Fadhil guru saya, Dr. Abdulrahman Al-Uthmani min Syria. Sebenarnya perkenalan saya dengan Dr. Abdulrahman ni bermula di CFS lagi. Saya pernah masuk kelas Fadhil Dr. Abdulrahman dalam pengajian kitab Sahih Muslim. Jadi ketika itu saya sama-sama menuntut ilmu dengan beliau berkenaan dengan pengajian kitab Sahih Muslim. Dan Alhamdulillah hari ini kami bertemu lagi. Sebabnya adalah Al-Fadhil Doktor, saya nampak posting Al-Fadhil Doktor di Facebook dengan program PSP yang baru, iaitu yang di atasnya berwarna hijau. Jadi di situ saya mendapat satu cetusan, mengapa tidak kita laksanakan satu wacana ilmiah, kita bicara tentang isu Syria dan kita menjemput Al-Fadhil Dr. Abdulrahman, dan kebetulan pula beliau daripada Syria juga. Kita sedang menunggu panel kita yang pertama, insyaAllah Dr. Muhammad Qutub juga daripada Syria. Jadi hari ini mungkin kita sudah banyak mendengar wacana-wacana pendapat daripada rakyat Malaysia mungkin yang terlibat di dalam humanitarian action di Syria, ataupun kita mendengar pandangan-pandangan daripada pakar-pakar geopolitik dunia. Tetapi hari ini kita bawakan kepada antum semua, kawan-kawan di Universiti Islam Antarabangsa Malaysia, pandangan, sudut pandang, perspektif daripada dua orang panel daripada Syria sendiri, insyaAllah. Jadi itu sebenarnya yang kita mahu dengarkan. Sebab pada saya sekalipun, konflik Syria ni adalah konflik yang rumit, yang kita sukar untuk faham, yang kita sukar untuk ambil posisi. Mungkin dalam isu Palestin kita mudah untuk ambil posisi kerana ia adalah pertembungan di antara hak dan juga batil, iaitu di antara Palestin dan juga Israel. Tetapi dalam pertembungan Syria, kita nampak ada banyak pihak yang saling berkecamuk, yang saling mendukung antara satu sama lain. Kadang-kadang boleh jadi dia menarik sebab pertembungan ini boleh jadi pertembungan yang banyak. Boleh jadi nombor satu yang paling aula adalah pertembungan politik. Itu semua maklum. Di mana-mana negara, di mana-mana bangsa pun ada politik. Pertembungan yang kedua adalah pertembungan mazhab, iaitu mazhab Syiah dan juga mazhab Ahlussunnah wal Jamaah. Dan yang ketiga adalah pertembungan kuasa-kuasa besar. Kita tengok Amerika yang mendukung Israel, dalam isu konflik Palestin, mendukung HTS. Saya sebenarnya kurang hafal apa maksud HTS, tetapi Rusia tetapi Rusia yang mendukung Palestin dalam konflik Palestin, mendukung pula Assad, iaitu rejim Assad di dalam konflik Syria ini. Jadi kecamuknya konflik di Syria ini menjadikan saya terpanggil sama-sama dengan kawan di KBM dan juga kawan-kawan di MUHIM agar kita sama-sama membawakan wacana ini kepada antum semua, kepada kawan-kawan semua, supaya kita dapat mendengar dengan lebih jelas, dengan lebih teliti apa sebenarnya yang berlaku di bumi Syria, insya-Allah. Jadi kita memberi masa kepada kawan-kawan untuk sedikit persiapan teknikal, dan juga sementara itu kita menunggu. Menunggu tak menunggu. Okay, so maaf di atas masalah teknikal. Bismillah. Maaf di atas masalah teknikal. Okey, jadi sebelum saya sementara menunggu kawan-kawan di dalam melaksanakan, di dalam menyiapkan persiapan teknikal, yang mana konflik di Syria ini memakan masa kurang lebih 14 tahun. Kita membesar dengan konflik di Syria. Kalau ingat, kawan-kawan yang membaca tentang Arab Spring, sangat menarik pemerhatian tentang Arab Spring, iaitu kebangkitan Arab yang mana ia bermula di bumi Tunisia sebelum ia menginggah ke Mesir, Libya, ia turun pula ke Yaman dan juga ia berakhir di Syria sehinggalah selesai sudah konflik di Syria baru-baru ini. Jadinya konflik yang berpanjangan yang melibatkan nyawa ratusan ribu orang yang menyebabkan jutaan rakyat Syria menjadi pelarian di seluruh dunia. Kami PKPM ataupun ABIM juga terlibat di dalam melaksanakan satu inisiatif pendidikan kepada kanak-kanak di Syria, iaitu kita ada sekolah pendidikan Syria yang namanya Jasmine Asyar. Tafadhal Ustaz. Assalamualaikum. Ala nasta'in bil lughati al-arabiyyah bi hadratihim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. We are very delighted to have our honorable guest, Al-Fadil Dr. Qutub and Al-Fadil Dr. Abdulrahman Al-Uthmani, to have a conversation on the topic New Syria, from the Middle East to the world. Because in this forum, we want to know about.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا وحبيبنا وإمامنا أبي القاسم محمد بن عبد الله وعلى آله وصحبه والتابعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. I praise Allah Almighty and I send prayers and blessings upon Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, his noble family, righteous companions, and all those that follow them with the right guidance until the day of judgment. Ameen. Glory be to you, O Allah. We have no knowledge except that which you have taught us. You are indeed the all-knowing, the all-wise. First of all, I would like to thank our dear brother and the organizers for organizing this event in such a timely manner. Barakallahu feekum wa jazakumullahu khayran. I am very happy to be amongst you again, speaking about something which is very dear to our hearts, and that is the issue of Syria. The last time I spoke at UIA about Syria, I think was in the very beginning, possibly end of 2012 and 2013. So you're talking about a good 10 years. And then, because you took us back to the beginning, brother, then it seemed like, yes, a lot had happened, but it seemed like it was close to the end. And a lot of our Malaysian brothers and sisters were wholeheartedly with us, sympathizing and really feeling the situation. But then something happened. I don't know how many of you are following the issue that closely. To the end of 2012, beginning 2013, something happened that was a lifesaver for the Assad regime. Do you remember what it is? It's called ISIS. And after ISIS entered the fray, all of my Malaysian brothers and sisters started looking to me and saying, Ustaz, what's going on? And we lost a lot of the support globally, not only here, all around the world. This was a lifesaver for the tyrant in Damascus. Because now the world looks at him as someone who is fighting terrorism. Oh, okay, he's not that bad. Yes, he's torturing the hell out of his own people, but he's fighting the terrorists, he's fighting ISIS. So from that point on, we tried to focus on awareness and spreading awareness, but slowly, the whole issue died down. In the hearts of Syrians themselves as well. And they started feeling differently. I will tell you some of the history, but I just wanted to mention that. Because after that, subhanallah, I haven't spoken about the issue in a very long time. And here we are, in the course of 11 days, one of the worst and most tyrannical regimes has fallen, subhanallah. But it's not the 11 days. We might say it's the 14 years of the revolution. Some might say it's not even that. It's the 54 years of tyranny that Syria has been under. Since the father of Bashar, Hafiz al-Assad, took power in 1970 and turned Syria into their own backyard. What you mentioned, brother, is very important. Because I was going to comment on it in the first place, and then you said, is it even correct to call it a civil war? This issue, my brothers and sisters, has to do with the media. The media is critical in shaping public opinion. So the media will use certain words. And from the very beginning, I remember, maybe I mentioned it to you and I objected to this term, civil war. This is not a civil war. This is a genocide. What happened in Syria is no less than a genocide. We are watching the genocide in Gaza unfold. What happened in Syria is no less of a genocide, and I might even tell you, a worse genocide. The approximately, again, I'd rather not compare, but the massacre of 1982 in Hama took the lives of over 40,000 people in less than a month. And even though this is the number you hear for the genocide in Gaza, 40,000, 45,000, if you've heard my talks, I have said over and over, this number is a severe and gross underestimate. Those who died in Gaza are probably over 100,000, based on a lot of reports. Anyway, so what happened in Syria is no less than a genocide. Why are they calling it a civil war? Because this will make you less sympathetic. Oh, the Syrians are fighting each other. The Syrian people are fighting each other, when what it is a genocide by the supposed ruler of the country. So it's very, very different. A civil war conjures up in your mind images of people who are fairly equally armed. Yes? These people have arms and these people have arms. Not the genocide in Syria. The tyrant dropping the barrel bombs on people's heads, left and right. And all the fighters on the ground have our light weapons. They cannot reach the planes. Kind of similar to what you saw a little bit in Gaza. But now, the weapons are a little bit more sophisticated compared to before. So you cannot call it a civil war. Just like we don't call what's happening in Gaza a war. We call it a genocide. Massacres. The media is very important. When did it all start? As I was coming, I heard you mentioning the Arab Spring, Tunisia, Yemen. That's a perfect way to place it. Because you need to remember how it all started. And that is in the milieu and the environment of the Arab Spring. Otherwise, the Syrian people are not insane enough to do anything like they did in 2011. Because they know the brutality of this regime. They know what this regime is capable of. And the sour taste of Hama of 1982 was still in their throats. And they can taste it in their mouths. That's why, when the people of Tunisia went out in protest demanding their freedom, and the people of Egypt, and the people of Yemen, and the people of Libya, when they all went out, hey Baba. Sorry, my toddler is calling me. You might hear that every now and then during the talk. When all these people came out and demanded their freedom, you can almost hear the Syrian people whispering to each other, are we also going to go out? We deserve freedom more than everyone else. Our tyrant is so much worse than everyone else. When my brothers were asking me, Then, Sheikh, how do you compare Bashar al-Assad to Hosni Mubarak of Egypt? I said Hosni Mubarak is a dove. He's a dove of peace compared to Bashar al-Assad. What are you talking about? So the Syrian people knew if anyone needs to go out and protest and depose their regime, it's the Syrians. But how? So when they saw that all of those peoples came out, protested, demanded freedom, and several dictators had already fell. Zayn al-Abidin of Tunis fled in 23 days. Hosni Mubarak stepped down, no problem. So when they saw this, they said, maybe. So we'll do what they're doing. Why is this important? Because some of the ignorants say, oh, the Syrians, they ruined it. How did they ruin it? Because they militarized their revolution. Was it always militarized, my brothers and sisters? Peaceful protests. We just came out like everyone else, saying, we want freedom, we want reform. The people of Dar'a, the children of Dar'a in the south, in the cradle of the revolution, came out saying, we want freedom. Everyone wants freedom. That's it. You all know what the consequence for those children was, or not? You know. Raise your hand if you know. Don't be shy, don't be modest. What happened to those children in Dar'a in the very beginning who came out saying, we want freedom? How many people know? Raise your hand. Don't be shy, don't be modest. Okay, not many. Kids, close your ears. They imprisoned them, they tortured them, and they plucked out their fingernails. Yes. Kids. This is what the regime does. This is what the regime is excellent at. Tyranny and terror against their own people. So,
actually, Dr. Qutub, he is my father actually. In 2012, he was my wali when I get married.
MashaAllah.
So he's like my father. So I know him for a long time. But I came to Malaysia before him, you know.
And he speaks much better Malay than me.
And also I will tell you one secret about him. Actually, he is US citizenship.
Allah.
So originally he's from Syria, but he studied in US. So he, mashallah, globally. And always I'm following his video in YouTube. Totally his view is always is global view, mashallah.
Allah barik.
So allow me to speak in Malay.
Please, brother.
Sebenarnya Syekh Muhammad ni macam dia rasa malu dia nak sambung apa yang berlaku kepada budak-budak tu. Masa dia suruh mereka balik, so ayah-ayah mereka, parents mereka datang balik kepada tentera Bashar dan dia kata, kenapa buat macam tu kepada budak-budak ni, macam kecil dia tak faham apa-apa. Kemudian dia kata, baliklah kepada isteri-isteri kamu kalian, jimat dengan mereka, dapat anak yang baru dia akan sujud kepada Bashar al-Assad. Dia kata macam tu. Itu perkataan yang paling buruk. Itu kenapa Rasulullah sedekasi dia dah mula daripada situ. Okay? Sebenarnya the main character is Sheikh Muhammad Qutub. I'm just listening with you because there are a lot of information. Okay?
Allah barik lak ya Sheikh. Jazakallah khair. Sheikh is being very modest and saying things about me that maybe are not correct. So what we were saying was that this is all part of the Arab Spring. And it is only then that they decided to come out in peaceful protests. And this is what they did for a while. And because they saw the other tyrants fall, they hoped their tyrant would fall as well. If you remember, Libya, NATO entered in Libya. So for a long time, the Syrians had banners in their protests saying, NATO, come and save us from this tyrant. But little did they realize, no one was going to come to save them. Not NATO and not anyone else, for different reasons. Syria is not as rich in oil as Libya. So, no oil, sorry, not very interested. You can just, continue to die under this tyrant. Allah al-Musta'an. Anyway, they quickly realized no one is coming to save us. How did it start to become militarized now? Two main reasons. Number one, many of the army personnel who were being commanded to shoot at their brothers and sisters, their compatriots, their Syrian people, many of those honorable army personnel said, no, I will not do so, and they decided to defect from the army or their positions. And when an army person defects, he will defect with his weapon, of course. He's not going to give the weapon back to Bashar and defect. He defects with his weapon. So slowly, those in the opposition are armed. They have weapons. Number two, and this is the more important reason, is that while peaceful protesters were out demanding freedom, without arms, the regime responds with live fire. And we started seeing the tanks leave their barracks and enter the cities to deal with these terrorists, right? These armed groups, these infiltrators, these traitors. They called us everything. Mundassin, all of these great words that they used, right? We are traitors and infiltrators, and we are agents of the West and agents of Israel, and you name it. Every single label they could come up with, they labeled the opposition. So, and of course, many other crimes as well. Entering the houses of opposition activists, killing mothers and fathers in front of their children, killing children in front of their parents, and other crimes I don't want to mention if there are kids here. So naturally, people said, we have to defend ourselves. And to be honest, the older generation of Syrians, as you know, Sheikh Abdulrahman, they understood from the very beginning, this is not going to go well. And Bashar is not going to be removed by saying, Silmiya, Silmiya, peaceful protest, peaceful protest. This is not Egypt. This is not Tunis. Yeah? They understood. The younger generation were hopeful because they just saw the Arab Spring. But the older generation who lived and saw Hama and other things, they knew this is not going to work. And therefore, slowly, it became more militarized. People were defending themselves, and then there was active fighting. But in the beginning, the backers of the Assad regime did not support him completely. They started supporting Iran and Russia, but not as much as later on. And that's why around the end of 2012, you could see opposition activists in Damascus recording videos addressing Bashar directly and saying, Bashar, you better run away because we're coming to your house. We were close. It was close. And they had taken so much of the land of Syria at that point, and that had become free and liberated from the Assad regime. But slowly, his backers kept on pumping money and consultants and weapons and you name it. Okay? And of course then, the satanic idea, how about we invent ISIS? So, you would hear that Assad, the forgiving Assad, starts to empty the prisons, right? Maybe sending known criminals into the midst in order to cause chaos. And now all of a sudden we hear of something called ISIS, and no one wants to hear about Syria anymore. So much money came from the Gulf to help the opposition. Money only, not weapons. Money. But all of that stopped once there was the issue of ISIS. ISIS destroyed our revolution. And now you have idiots today saying, oh, congratulations to the Syrian people, they will now be ruled by ISIS. Hasbi Allah wa ni'mal wakil. Allah al-Musta'an. Just like at the time, people tried to minimalize and miniaturize the whole revolution into the issue of ISIS. they are trying to do something similar now by writing off this amazing victory and saying it is ISIS again. Even though what has happened today, as I'm sure you all know, is nothing short of a miracle, a karama, an earthquake on all geopolitical levels. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. We're living this dream, my brothers and sisters, walhamdulillah. How many more minutes just to finish the history of the revolution?
3 minutes.
3 minutes. طيب, you want me to get to 2024? In 3 minutes. 2015, end of 2015, Russia intervenes militarily with all its might. Few opposition activists here and there with light weapons cannot face the world's superpower, Russia, with all its might. And they come in and they say, had it not been for us, Assad would have fallen in 2 weeks. And Hezbollah said something similar as well. When you wonder, how did it happen in 11 days? What happened? How did it just crumble? He would have crumbled the same way before had it not been for those people propping him up. And they are correct. Yes, they have lied on so many occasions, but on this they were correct. If it wasn't for his backers, 2 weeks, he'd be out. There it is. 11, less than 2 weeks, he's out. Because it seems the rug was pulled from under him and they decided, we're not backing him anymore. It's finished. So after 2015, things went downward. A lot of the land was taken back by the Assad regime. Of course, sieges against so many of the different parts that were liberated, most famous of which was the siege in eastern Ghouta in the south, okay? For years. Can you imagine? People starved. People were eating the leaves off the trees. People were asking for fatwas about things they can eat and things they cannot. They were starved to death. And until they would succumb to the pressure and agree to be taken somewhere else. So they slowly started pressuring everyone in the opposition to an area in the north called Idlib. And everything else now is essentially in the hands of Assad, except for some pockets in the north and the northeast that belonged to the Kurds. Otherwise, the opposition was concentrated in Idlib. Time passes. Syrians are becoming more and more in despair, losing hope, feeling it's all done. Arab countries actually talking and having the audacity to speak about normalizing relations with Bashar. It's all over, Syrian people, sorry. You know, he's the legitimate leader and he's the legitimate president. Syrians losing more and more hope. However, there were many Syrians in Syria who took every occasion to come out and say, Wallahi, we will fight this regime until the last drop, until the last man. And there is no going back to that before 2011. And if you remember, I told you in 2012 and 2013, the Syrian people will not go back home. It's over. Because they also understood that once they went out, there's no going back. So even though it seemed like it was all over, Bashar is now accepted and slowly going to be put back in the international community as a normal human being. Many of the Syrian people said, Wallahi, never. Allahu Akbar. It is that determination, my brothers and sisters, by the help and grace of Allah, that we are here today speaking about the great victory that happened.
Inshallah, tabarakallah, it is the determination of the spirit who did not lose hope on the fighting, how I can describe as a maybe in a way more tyrannical way of, compared to Israel. We know about the island the small brothers wearing a red shirt that are, laid down in the seashore of
Ilan
Istanbul.
Kurdi, yes, Ilan Kurdi.
Kurdi. That photo is very, in a way we call it menggoncang dunia. How is it quake the earth? How the international community had to show their support to the fight of the Syrian people, because Assad is, it's very crazy to kill all of these people altogether. So inshallah, thank you Dr. Qutub for the introduction. I think it's very 10 years. It's not a short days. It takes a lot of lives, blood, and all of that.
Absolutely.
Okay, inshallah, we will move to the next question for the Ustad Dr. Abdulrahman. Okay, the second question will be, Doctor, some people associate this revolution as bughah towards government, which is prohibited in Islam. What's your comment on that, Doctor?
Okay. Bismillah. Okay, terima kasih. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I ask your permission to speak in Malay. Jazakallah khair.
Just don't say anything bad about me.
Okay, actually daripada mula-mula saya minta soalan-soalan ni akan tanya pada forum ini. So saya ada beberapa jawapan dia melalui slide. So saya minta maaf, saya nak cakap dalam bahasa Melayu dan saya nak pakai slide itu. Okay, sebelum saya nak jawabkan soalan yang dia ada bagi tahu tadi, sebenarnya saya nak mula daripada slide yang pertama ialah di sini. Saya ada bagi tahu dekat sini, sebenarnya yang dia bebaskan Syria adalah Gaza. Ya, macam yang Dr. Qutub dia bagi tahu tadi, dia adalah macam mukjizat daripada Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala, dia macam satu karamah Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala kurniakan kepada rakyat Syria. Tetapi sebetulnya Gaza dia adalah satu faktor yang sangat penting yang dia bagi manfaat dan faedah kepada ahli keluarga Syria. Sebab masa yang mereka dah mula dia pada 7 Oktober tahun lepas, okey, selama setahun, 1 bulan, 2 bulan, okey, macam tu, dia dalam 1 bulan banyak perkara yang dia dah tukar. Hizbullah dia dah jadi lemah, Iran dia dah sibuk dengan Israel, kemudian Bashar al-Assad pun dia ada dapat beberapa bombing dekat Damsyik, dekat beberapa tempat yang dia mempunyai. Russia dia subhanallah dia sibuk dengan Ukraine. So itu keadaan dia mula daripada situ. Okey, ni faktor yang pertama. Faktor yang kedua, saya boleh kata sebenarnya yani Sheikh Muhammad he talk about the mu'jizah. Actually is really mu'jizah. Why? Because sebenarnya semua mujahidin mereka ada mula prepare atau mereka nak sedia untuk revolusi yang terakhir ni, untuk fighting. Mereka ada mula daripada selama 3 tahun. Bukan daripada sekarang, bukan daripada setahun atau 6 bulan. Mereka mula daripada 3 tahun. Apa buktinya? Buktinya mereka ada buat satu. Mereka sendiri ada buat atau mereka ada create satu drone yang nama dia Shahid. Dan ni dia dah mula daripada selama atau sejak 3 tahun sampai sekarang. So, masa yang mereka pakai drone di dalam ma'rakah atau perperangan terakhir ini, dia sangat effective. Itu salah satu faktor yang mereka tidak tahu apa yang berlaku, tapi mereka mula. At least wa'iddu lahum mastata'tum. Just mereka adalah macam preparing untuk apa yang berlaku pada masa hadapan. Okey, kemudian lagi satu faktor yang dia akan tolong mereka, sebenarnya Turki satu negara yang dia memang support orang Syria sangat daripada mula-mula sebenarnya. Turki dia mempunyai 3,5 juta orang Syria yang refugee dekat sana. Dan juga yani bagi orang mujahidin, mereka ada beritahu dekat Turki ialah mereka akan mula revolusi sebelum 6 bulan, tetapi mereka tak tentukan tarikh dia bila. So maknanya masa yang mereka ada pilih 27 hari bulan 11 itu daripada Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala, bukan daripada mereka. Sebab semua kita macam terkejut kenapa mereka pilih tarikh yang tersebut. Dan juga masa yang mereka kita terima berita-berita tu, saya terus bagi tahu abang-abang saya ada dekat sana. Saya kata kenapa mereka mulakan dia walaupun mereka tak mampu nak jaga tempat yang baru. Sebab tempat-tempat mereka yang berada sekarang mereka tak boleh jaga. So macam kenapa dia nak pergi dekat satu tempat Dan bukan tempat yang biasa dia pergi dekat Halab, dekat Aleppo. So dia Halab sebelum Hama. So saya kata mereka tak mampu, macam mana dia nak pergi nak ambil satu tempat yang baru, macam mana nak jaga? Dia macam tak logik sebenarnya. Tapi mujahidin pun kalau nak tengok pada plan mereka ada plan nak ambil Aleppo dan Hama sahaja. Itu mereka mahu. Tetapi apa mereka pergi dekat Hama, tak ada apa-apa berperang. Itulah yang saya ada tulis dekat sana, fathun minallah. Kalau kita nak kira berapa orang yang dia kena atau dia mati atau dia macam dibunuh di dalam 10 hari ini atau 2 minggu ini, dia tak sampai kam ya Syekh, kam adad al-qatla idza kan min kull al-tarafain khilal kull hadhihi al-harb, kull hadhihi al-ma'araka.
السوريين بيقولوا مليون الرقم اللي
لا في المعركة الأخيرة
مو واضح ليس واضح.
يعني kalau kita nak katakan maksimum boleh kata 5,000 contoh atau 10,000, dia tak sampai 10,000 tapi katakan 10,000. Dia ni 10,000 tak nothing depan yang 1 juta orang yang dia dah mati, 3 juta atau 10 juta yang mereka lari daripada situ. Okay, so dia subhanallah, dia memang fathun min Allah. Sebab masa mereka habis daripada Aleppo, mereka sambung, boleh ambil satu bandar, dia sambung lagi, mereka lari, dia mereka masuk Hama. Subhanallah. Semua kita macam tak logik. Kita macam tak faham macam mana dia berlaku. Kemudian mereka sambung. Okey, lagi satu bukti bagi revolusi ini atau perang yang terakhir ini dia macam daripada Allah Subhanahu wa taala ialah masa yang al-mujahidin mereka ada sampai dekat satu tempat nama dia Ar-Rastan Bridge. Okay, kalau kita sekarang tulis dekat ni Google Map, dia akan tulis temporary close. Kenapa? Sebab Russia tu dia tak mengganggu langsung yang orang mujahidin masa yang mereka datang daripada utara dan pergi dekat selatan. Mereka tak kacau. Mereka kacau dekat ni jambatan yang ada dekat sini sahaja. Dan juga masa jambatan itu berada di antara Hama dan Homs. Okey. Masa mereka dah bebaskan Homs dan mereka nak sambung, tiba-tiba pada waktu malam Russia dia datang dan dia bom jambatan itu. Pada malam tu kita rasa sangat sedih. Kenapa benda tu? Macam mana mujahidin dia nak lalu? Sebab ada dekat situ dia ada macam sungai, macam yang masa kita pergi dekat Kuantan, ada satu raja dekat Timur kan. Kalau tak ada ni sungai Pahang, tak boleh lalu. Tapi subhanallah ada hikmah di kata belakang dia. Mujahidin terpaksa nak pecah kepada 2 bahagian dan mereka pergi daripada kanan dan kiri. Okay, so maknanya mereka ada lalu daripada ni Hama, ni Homs. So mereka pecah kepada 2 sebab mereka nak datang daripada sebelah kanan dan kiri. Masa yang mereka datang daripada belakang, biasanya mereka datang daripada utara kan. Masa yang mereka datang daripada belakang, mereka tutup Homs bagi semua askar-askar Bashar al-Assad atau tentera Bashar al-Assad untuk kembali kepada Damsyik. Itu kenapa Damsyik dia jadi lemah. Dia tak boleh sokongkan Bashar al-Assad. Dan juga mujahidin dia ada buka satu laluan bagi semua tentera Bashar al-Assad untuk lalu ke tepi laut, ke sini. Sebab tempat orang Syiah ada tepi laut sana. So mereka ada buka satu laluan kepada mereka untuk lalu dan pergi dekat situ. So mereka pergi, tak ada masalah. Okey, itulah daripada Allah Subhanahu wa taala. Mereka tak tahu. Faham tak apa maksud saya? Sebab kalau mereka masih berperang daripada utara, mereka akan pergi balik yang tentera Bashar al-Assad. Nanti dia akan mereka berada dekat Damsyik, nanti dia memang ramai orang dia akan bunuh dekat situ. So itu daripada Allah Subhanahu wa taala. Banyak perkara yang kita tak tahu kenapa dia berlaku, tapi subhanallah ada hikmah dekat belakang dia. Wallahu alam. Okey. Kemudian so di sini ada yang tadi. Yang seterusnya. Ni ada tanya saya tadi Firdaus kan? Amirul Firdaus tentang bugha. Adakah kita akan kira orang-orang mujahidin adalah bugha atau tidak? Jawapan dia yang sangat short, yang sangat pendek, saya akan kata tidak. Kalau kita nak tengok daripada 1971, daripada ayah Bashar al-Assad sampai sekarang, dia bunuh daripada orang nasional lebih pada apa yang mereka bunuh. Ini satu. Yang kedua, banyak kezaliman. Di sini kalau kita ada 2 mudarat, kita akan pilih yang mana lebih kurang lah. Mana yang kurang pada yang lagi satu, kita akan pilih dia. Kalau kita nak membezakan di antara mudarat, tinggalkan Bashar al-Assad dekat situ, mudarat dia lebih tinggi pada kalau mereka berperang dengan dia. So kita akan pilih akhafud dararain. Yang akhafud dararain dia akan berperang, tapi sebenarnya walaupun mereka berperang, tapi tak ada ramai orang yang dia mati. Itu yang paling penting dekat situ. Alhamdulillah, fathum minallah. So kita tak kira mereka burah. Okey, apa bukti saya? Saya boleh akan tunjuk kepada kamu kalian. Okey, di sini macam yang Dr. Qutub dia ada bagi tahu tadi, semua mereka sampai malam semalam ada seorang yang dia mesti cari melalui Facebook sampai pukul 11.30 tengah malam dia tanya tentang perkara ini. Dia hantar beberapa video yang mereka kata ni adalah ISIS. Dan masa yang mereka rakam, dia ada yang satu satu flag atau satu tanda yang dekat situ tulis la ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, yang flag ISIS punya. So dia kata tengok mana ISIS dia kembali. Okey, saya akan bagi tahu sebenarnya yang dia guide, yang dia bawa semua orang mujahidin daripada utara sampai Damsyik adalah satu grup yang paling kuat yang kita panggil dia Hay'atu Tahrir Syam, HTS. Okey, HTS tu ya, kita tidak mengingkari yang asal dia daripada Al-Qaeda. Asal dia memang daripada Jabhatun Nusrah. Dekat mula-mula pada tahun 2011 hingga 2016 dia adalah Jabhatun Nusrah, dan mereka kata kita sebenarnya sebahagian atau Al-Qaeda support kita. Mereka cakap pada masa tu. Dan kebanyakan mereka dia tak buka muka mereka. Okey? Selama berapa? 5 tahun. Okey, kemudian masa yang keadaan Syria dia dah berubah, tak boleh. So mereka ada tukar daripada, sebab masa yang mereka kata daripada Al-Qaeda, okay, tengok, ISIS datang. So masa yang ramai orang tak terima ISIS dan mereka tolak dia, orang ini Jabhatun Nusrah, mereka bercampur dengan mujahidin yang lain dan mereka berperang dengan ISIS. Okay, tetapi masih mereka panggil dia kamu daripada Qaeda. So mereka terpaksa nak tukar nama daripada Jabhatun Nusrah ke lagi satu nama yang panggil dia Jabhah Fathus Syam. Jabhah Fathus. Ini kali yang pertama yang Abu Muhammad Al-Jawlani dia buka untuk muka dia. Kita tahu dia adalah Jawlani daripada Golan. Okey, tetapi kita tidak tahu, tak pasti. So apabila dia buka muka, semua orang dia tahu ni adalah nama dia Ahmad Al-Syara. Okey? Tetapi masa yang dia namakan Jabhah Fathus Syam, dia masih kata kita di bawah kaedah. Itulah mujahidin yang lain tak bercampur dengan mereka, tak kerjasama. Dia kata kamu dah kira seorang yang teroris, kita tak mahu. So terakhir sekali, okey, boleh tekan, terakhir sekali dia terpaksa nak tukar kepada Hay'ah Tahrir Syam daripada atau sejak 2017 sampai sekarang. Okey, dan di sini, so maknanya apa yang kita faham daripada contoh yang saya bagi tahu tadi, contoh dia ialah ideologi yang mereka mempunyai dia, mereka boleh tinggalkan dia dan dia tukar ideologi mereka. Itu satu perkara yang sangat penting. So maknanya mereka bukan seorang yang ekstrim, bukan seorang yang radikal yang dia tak boleh langsung tinggalkan fikrah mereka. Tak, mereka nak tengok pada apa masa hadapan, macam mana hikmah, macam mana keadaan yang sesuai kepada semua ahli rakyat Syria. Okey, so maknanya hasil apa yang saya bagi tahu tadi ni, kesimpulannya ialah mereka tidak kira burah sebab ada dua mudarat, kita pilih kurang pada mudarat yang lain. Okey, satu. Dan yang kedua, mereka macam fleksibel, atau mereka ada yang baru, mereka akan tukar fikrah, tukar dia kata akidah mereka, ideologi mereka, sampai dia akan mensesuaikan diri mereka dengan keadaan orang Syria. Nanti ada lagi satu soalan, saya dah tahu semua soalan tu. Dia ada bagi tahu saya. Nanti ada lagi satu soalan tentang macam mana masa hadapan dekat Syria, nanti akan terangkan lagi satu, insya-Allah. Okey.
InsyaAllah. Thank you so much, Fadil Dr. Abdulrahman, for the explanation.
فهمتم شيئا؟
لبين ما
Dr. Abdulrahman have to translate to
لبين ما قررت وخطر لي شلون افهم عليك حطيت لي جوجل ترانسليت وقفت.
For us, because we all knew that when the ISIS came, as Dr. Qutub mentioned before, all of us become very frightened to talk, to support any part in the Syrian war, because this is ISIS, and some of the nations that want to support military in the Syrian war also become very afraid, because we didn't know which part is correct, which part is wrong. Okay, so it is a very enlightened ideas from Dr. Abdulrahman to explain for us on how nowadays Al-Julani, I also didn't memorize his full name, but of course Al-Julani nowadays, the leaders of HTS, and nowadays maybe inshallah will be the Prime Minister of Syria in very few days. Inshallah. So inshallah we move to the next session.
Can I just say something about some of what was said? Okay, so my Malay is almost non-existent. So I think I understood maybe 5% of what the Sheikh said.
Actually, he
by the time I opened Google Translate, he had already finished. Didn't occur to me before, but now AI gives you that ability. So maybe in the next session, I'll put Google Translate and I'll understand what he's saying. But from what I could gather, he gave you a very nice summary of what happened militarily as well from the very beginning throughout the 11 days. And I can tell you, it's a very nice, let's call it qadar, okay, not so much a coincidence, but qadar, that we have what happened in those 11 days right here. So here you have Sheikh Abdulrahman from Idlib coming towards me in Damascus, because I'm Damascene, and we met in Damascus and we liberated the whole country, alhamdulillah. That's exactly what happened. The opposition fighters came down from Idlib, went through, of course, the liberation of Aleppo and Hama and then Homs. And he told you, I think, how they went around after the destruction of the Rustam Bridge. Did I understand that right, Sheikh? Okay. Then, but what was happening down there also is that the opposition activists in Dar'a, in the south and the southwest of Damascus, also started rising up. And they are not Hayat Tahrir al-Sham. Those are different. But they started rising, they started liberating Dar'a, and they met then slowly on the outskirts of Damascus and finally entered into Damascus. What I'd like to say, and I think this is critically important as well, especially for our non-Syrians and non-Arab listeners as well, and that is that while Hayat Tahrir al-Sham is one of the main drivers of the opposition fighters coming from Idlib, that does not mean that everything that happened throughout those 11 days is HTS or Tahrir al-Sham. Some may claim that as much as 70%, 60 or 70% of the fighters that made this happen, 70% were not Hayat Tahrir al-Sham. It would go that high. What we're trying to say is we as Syrians understand. That's why when you see the whole country celebrating, the Syrian people immediately realize this is not just Hayat Tahrir al-Sham. Hayat Tahrir al-Sham played a huge role, and we cannot not give them that credit. However, as they liberated Aleppo and then Hama, the people of those cities started joining the fight, because it's the first time in a long time that the opposition now is making inroads into the Assad areas. So a lot of the Syrian people, regular people like us, started joining the fight. So that's why Syrians immediately realized this is the beginning of liberation. This is not just Hayat Tahrir al-Sham coming and taking control of the whole country. I just wanted to mention that before moving on, inshallah. شيخ تقول شيء؟
لا
عندك أي تعقيب؟ أكيد.
إن شاء الله. Maybe in the next round, inshallah. Bismillah. Okay, sorry. Maybe in the next round we will go to the Father Mr. Abdulrahman first. And it's very interesting when Dr. Abdulrahman mentioned about how Gaza actually helped Syria. Because we just published an article named with the topics of today's Syria, tomorrow Gaza. Hari ini Syria, esok Gaza. Boleh nampak kan? Saya ada print, kalau tak cukup mungkin boleh print lagi insyaAllah. Okay. Because we knew that, actually I found it in the Twitter that they say that, they start chanting, today Syria, tomorrow Gaza, today Syria, tomorrow Gaza, insyaAllah. We were liberated. The God, Allah SWT, who liberated Syria in the very impossible way, He also the one who will liberate Palestine, inshallah, one day.
Ameen.
Okay, we will move to Father Dr. Qutub after this, and the question is about the uncertainty on Syria. nowadays, after the new Syria? How do you view these uncertainties, and how do you expect, what do you expect for the future of Syria?
Jazakumullah khairan. If this question was asked of me any other time, I would refuse to answer it. In fact, early on in the revolution, I found it very distressing that questions like this would be put to the opposition fighters and the activists. If you remember, there was a group called Ahrar al-Sham, and the leaders of Ahrar al-Sham were all taken out in one hit. Subhanallah, they were all together, it seems. And they would ask them questions like this. Whenever they would gain ground, oh, what is your view for Syria in the future? Get out of my face! Let's liberate Syria, then you ask me this question. We are still under the tyranny of Bashar al-Assad, and you're asking me questions like, will women participate in the parliament? Allahu Akbar. Yeah, and unfortunately, some of them were forced to answer. This is not the issue now. The issue is Assad. One compass. The regime. Take the regime out, then we'll talk. These are complex political issues, controversial issues, different opinions, maybe in the fiqh. And you're asking me, will women participate in the parliament? People are dying every single day. Any other time I would not answer this question. But now we are liberated from Al-Assad, so this is the time to possibly talk about the future. There is no Assad regime now. Mind you, technically, we're not completely out of the woods. There's still fighting going on. There are still some Assad pockets possibly hiding, or they'll try to do some mischief here and there. You have the Kurds in the northeast, even though Deir ez-Zor was liberated. So there's still work to do, brothers and sisters. And of course, the Zionists have not left us alone. Yeah. Criminals. They're trying to grab as much land as possible, right? Taking advantage of the situation. So I mean to say, there's still work going on. But the regime has fallen, and Bashar has fled like the rat that he is. So in that sense, alhamdulillah, we see that it is over and the whole country is celebrating, and it looks like they're going to be celebrating for a while. 54 years of tyranny deserves celebrations. But there's a lot of work to be done. I don't want to be a pessimist. I do want to be a realist. What we achieved is, I told you, nothing short of a miracle. But now there's a lot of work to be done. Bashar al-Assad, as the hadith says, صَدَقَكَ وَهُوَ كَذُوب. Bashar al-Assad is kadhub, like the shaitan. He's a liar. But he said one thing that was true. He said there is a global conspiracy against Syria. Of course, he meant it was against his regime. We discovered it's actually against us, the Syrian people. And that's why for 14 years, we were not allowed to have our freedom. Our revolution was an orphan one. So now, I tell you, the whole globe is going to conspire to try to ruin this happiness of ours and this victory of ours. Not least the Zionists, as you see. Because it's an earthquake, my brothers and sisters, it is an earthquake. So all of the enemies of Islam are now looking to Syria. Syria, which they understand as geopolitically important. And you and I understand as geopolitically important, but also as religiously and eschatologically important, through the hadith of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who talks about Ash-Sham and the importance of Ash-Sham in the end of times. And it seems like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is paving the way for those epic events that will happen. So, in that sense, they will not leave us alone. They didn't leave us alone during the revolution. And let me tell you something a lot of people don't know. people from different capitals around the globe would call up the opposition activists. Why? To offer their support and help? No. To ask, what kind of state are you after? Subhanallah. Look, this is what's scaring them. It's the ideology. What's going to become of Syria? What's Syria going to be? Is Syria going to be an enemy? A threat to the Zionists? If so, we won't allow it, right? The powers that be do not want to allow it. So, the situation is very complex, brothers and sisters. For the Syrians, as much as Gaza is on the mind of every Syrian, but at the same time, the way they're looking now is, finally, we liberated ourselves from this tyrant. Finally, we can work on building our country. So I can tell you that to a large extent, they're going to be looking more inward than outward. Maybe outward in terms of foreign relations, maybe for help and for relationships with other countries and so on and so forth. But ultimately, it's about rebuilding a country that has been ravaged by some 14 years of genocide and 54 years of the tyranny of the Assad family. So understandably, they want to now work on their country. They can finally participate in building their own country after facing all kinds of threats and negative consequences if they try to participate in any way politically. So keep that in mind. Yes, we say today Syria, tomorrow Gaza, we know this. We know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshaAllah, is going to liberate everyone under tyranny and under injustice. But for now, I think a lot of the Syrians will see it this way. We need to focus on Syria. We need to strengthen Syria now. Syria is weak. What can we do? We cannot even stop the Zionists on the south of our border. Right? They're taking advantage of the chaos. Mind you, you and I know, if you studied history, that liberating Al-Aqsa requires strengthening two other countries bordering it. Syria and Egypt. Interestingly, I was telling the brothers yesterday, when I said this, an Egyptian brother in the front row lost his mind. And he said, no, Egypt is different. I said, what do you mean Egypt is different? No, Egypt is different. He just kept on repeating that sentence like a parrot. No, Egypt is different. I said, I'm saying in history, you need to liberate and strengthen Syria and Egypt to liberate Palestine. No, Egypt is different. This was after the coup. After the coup in Egypt in 2013. So he was a Sisi supporter. Okay. So that's why he lost his mind when I said that. Otherwise, he was very happy with everything else I said when I was talking about Syria. Once I said the word Egypt, he went berserk, subhanallah. But this is what we know from history. This is what Salah ad-Din ibn Ayyubi did. Salah ad-Din, and before him, Nur ad-Din Zanki and his father, they focused on Syria. Syria was weak and divided. And it wasn't a united Syria like today. It was Halab and Dimashq and Homs and so on. So he wanted to unite these emirates and strengthen it. And then he worked on what is called the Ubaydi state in Egypt. Maybe you don't know it as Ubaydi, you know it as Fatimid. Dawla al-Fatimiyya, you've heard of it? But this is an incorrect label. Because they are not Fatimis and they are not from Ahl al-Bayt. They are Batinis. The right and correct label is Ubaydis, Ad-Dawla al-Ubaydiyya. So Salah ad-Din also turned his attention to Egypt to bring them back to Ahl al-Sunnah. Then only he was ready for the liberation of Al-Aqsa. Similarly today, the geostrategists and the geopolitical experts understand you need Syria and you need Egypt. And by the way, in 2012, and 2013, Egypt was liberated. Remember? Egypt was under a president who was democratically elected by the people, right? Egypt was becoming free and strong, and this scared the life out of the Zionists. And Syria, end of 2012, is beginning to be liberated as well. This would have meant the death of the Zionist project. And that's why our progress in Syria had to be stopped. And Morsi had to be sidelined. Yes, and eventually eliminated slowly, rahimahullah. Why am I telling you all of this? So, as much as Syria now is important, there is uncertainty. It needs a lot of work. Your Syrian brothers and sisters have already started working. Not only from the top, from the bottom as well. In Damascus, they have started forming, and I'm sure in the other provinces as well, they are forming groups for taking care of security, taking care of the weak, people who need certain services that maybe they couldn't get now because of the lack of centralized government. And by the way, just on a political note, life was not always so centralized as it is today, where you have one government responsible for everything. I don't know if you know this. In political history, this is a blip in time, what we are living now. For the longest time, things in the land was controlled and governed by the people. It was decentralized. It was groups here and there that was responsible for education, for health, for this, for that. This idea of a central government being responsible for everything, this is fairly new in the history of politics. So this is what your Syrian brothers and sisters are starting to do today. Give us some time. Let us strengthen it. Let us build it back up. Let us be able to stand up to the Zionists and stop them. And then inshallah, you will see the fruits of a liberated Syria and a Syria free of this tyrannical regime. Alhamdulillah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Qutub. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala strengthen Syria after this, and in the path of liberated Jerusalem, inshallah. And actually, Fadil, Dr. Qutub had introduced the last question for Fadil, Dr. Abdulrahman, which was about the hadith of Fitan. How are your view of that?
Thank you very much.
Actually, Sheikh Dr. Qutub, he just explained, but I will give some example, Okay? Can you... Okay, before this, okay, di sini. Tengok pada map of Syria yang ada dekat sini. Yang dekat atas, dekat utara, di Turki. Sebelah sini Iraq. Yang dekat bawah Jordan. Dan di sini Palestin dan Lebanon. Okay? So, sebenarnya Syria adalah 3 bahagian yang utama dunia. Walaupun ada beberapa grup yang kecil. Tetapi kita boleh kata Syria adalah 3 bahagian. Bahagian yang pertama yang dekat sebelah kanan pada Al-Furat River. Sebelah kanan ini yang ada dekat sini majoriti adalah orang Kurdish. Dan kemudian yang dekat tengah yang ni warna hijau ni orang ahli sunnah. Walaupun dekat bawah sekali ada beberapa orang daripada Duruz. Okey, Duruz ini satu grup daripada Syiah, dan yang tepi laut macam yang saya bagi tahu tadi, yang tepi laut dia adalah orang Syiah. Dia sebenarnya 3 bahagian. Okay. Kenapa saya bagi tahu tentang perkara ini? Okay. Yang seterusnya, tengok. Kalau kita nak tengok pada tempat-tempat minyak yang berada dekat Syria, semua berada dekat tempat orang Kurdish. Tetapi orang Kurdish dia, kalau mereka dapat satu negara dekat sini, mereka tak mampu nak jual minyak yang mereka keluarkan dia. Kenapa? Sebab mereka kena ada satu view, dia kena ada satu keluaran kepada laut. So laut ada dekat sini. Macam mana mereka nak lalu dekat situ? So maknanya dia diperlukan satu bantuan daripada ahli sunnah. Okay. So itulah yang mereka bawa dia daripada sini. Di sini dia ada processing. Ada apa panggil dia? Pipeline. Pipeline. Dia akan processing dia dekat situ, baru dia hantar ke laut untuk keluarkan dia dan dia akan jual. Okay. So maknanya ahli sunnah, Kurdish dia diperlukan untuk ahli sunnah, ahli sunnah diperlukan untuk Syiah juga, sebab ni tempat mereka sebenarnya. Kalau dia tengok ada tulis Tartus kan, Tartus itu yang airbase yang Russia punya, dia berada dekat Tartus. Mereka pilih tempat orang Syiah. Okay, so itulah dia, semua mereka dia kena bekerja sama untuk masa hadapan bagi Syria. Okay, so apa yang dia akan membahayakan masa hadapan dekat Syria? Okay, kalau bagi saya, mungkin Syekh Dr. Qutub dia akan tambah beberapa perkara tentang politik dunia, tapi saya akan ambil yang agama dunia. Di sini saya akan beritahu tentang dua hadis. Okay, hadis yang pertama, Rasulullah bersabda, yushikul furatu an yahsira an kanzin min dhahab faman hadarahu fala ya'khudh minhu syai'a. This one is hadis sahih in Sahih Bukhari, Muslim and dan Abu Dawud. Okay, so this one antara hadis-hadis yang kita rasa macam takut, kita rasa masalah yang dekat Syria. Saya tak mahu jadi macam seorang yang dia akan nampak gelap, dia macam hitam dan sebagainya, tapi mungkin dia insya-Allah yang masa hadapan dia adalah baik, tetapi masalah yang dekat Syria dia tak berhenti langsung. Bukan sekarang, bukan masa hadapan bagi saya. Tak tahu, mungkin Dr. Qutub dia ada mempunyai pandangan yang lain, tapi bagi saya tak ada. Kenapa? Sebab orang Syiah mereka sudah tahu di bawah Al-Furat River dia ada satu bukit emas, dan mereka dah tahu tentang hadis ini. Rasulullah dia suruh kita, fala ya'khudh, jangan ambil apa-apa daripada bukit emas tu. Kenapa? Kita tidak tahu, tapi Rasulullah dia suruh kita jangan. Itulah semua orang kafir mereka nak datang ke Syria. US ada, Russia ada, Iran ada, semua negara-negara yang besar tu. Turki pun dia ada, Israel dia support daripada secara yang sembunyi, dia support orang Kurdish tu. So maknanya masalah ni dia memang tidak akan berhenti, wallahu a'lam. Okay, lagi satu hadis Rasulullah bersabda, yang hadis Marjudabiq. Sebab tempat Marjudabiq ni dia berada yang dekat pada Aleppo. Dia macam antara Dabiq dan Aleppo, dia dalam 40-45 km. Okay, Rasulullah bersabda, yanzilur rumu fil a'maq. Semua orang Rumi dia akan turun dekat satu tempat yang berada dekat situ. Kenapa? Sebenarnya mereka akan fight, mereka nak nak datang kepada negara Islam. Sebab kalau kita nak tengok negara Islam yang Arab punya, dia adalah Syria. Sebab yang selepas Syria, dekat belakang Syria ada satu negara Islam ialah Turki, tapi mereka bukan orang, dia tak tahu bahasa Arab, boleh kata macam tu. So itulah kepentingan Syria dekat sini. Dan juga ada lagi banyak hadis dekat sini. Ardul mahsyari wal mansyar, idza fasada ahlus syami fala khaira fikum. Banyak hadis yang berkait dengan Syria. So maknanya Ardul Malahim pun, semua perperang dia akan berlaku dekat Syria. Ad-Dajjal dia akan dibunuh oleh Sayyidina Isa ibn Maryam dekat Babulud. Babulud dia dekat Damsyik pun. Okay? Kita kalau kita dah mati, semua kita akan kembali kepada Damsyik, sebab Ardul Mahsyar dekat sana. Tanah mahsyar memang dekat Damsyik. Semua mereka akan kembali dekat sana. So maknanya yang terakhir sekali, tengok yang ni Dabiq. Kalau kita tulis Dabiq, dia akan nampak, dan kita akan nampak yang Marj, yang tempat dia sangat cantik yang berada dekat sana. Okey, ni di antara dia. So maknanya mereka memang mahu tempat yang berada dekat sini, sebab mereka tahu ada banyak perkara, ada banyak boleh kata nature sources dia berada dekat Syria. Okay, walaupun bukan kita ada meniak macam Saudi, bukan ada meniak, tetapi tempat dia yang dekat Syria ni satu tempat yang sangat strategi. Semua orang mahu datang dekat sana sebab mereka nak kontrol. Ikutlah, kalau Russia dia mahu facing atau dia nak macam menghadapi kepada NATO. Dari mana? Daripada Syria. Kalau untuk Iran sama juga, kalau dia semua mereka mempunyai. Sekarang kalau untuk masa hadapan, kita berharap kalau kerajaan yang baru ini mereka akan membuahkan tempat Syria yang berada dekat sana. Bagilah Russia, kalau dia nak masuk dekat situ, bagilah dekat mereka. Sebab mereka bukan, tapi jangan kacau rakyat Syria. So kalau mereka nak macam mengawasi atau dia nak macam tengok pada Europe apa yang berlaku dekat sana, boleh, tak ada masalah. Kalau macam semua negara yang mereka nak dapat faedah boleh, tetapi dalam masa ini jangan kacau rakyat. Itu yang paling penting bagi kita semasa sekarang. Apa yang berlaku nanti Allahu a'lam. Tapi bagi masa sekarang, sebab tahu yang Israel dia dah bom semua tempat tentera Syria. Sekarang boleh kata macam 85% daripada daripada tentera Syria dia sudah destroy, sudah hancurkan semua. Tak ada apa-apa. Itulah yang masa yang Israel dia ambil Jabalus Shaykh. Jabalus Shaykh dia yang paling tinggi. Dia kalau sesiapa yang dia berdiri dekat atas, dia akan nampak Adam Shaykh dekat bawah lah. Okey, mereka tak buat apa-apa masa yang Israel dia masuk. Ya, di sini ramai orang dikatakan, tengok maknanya ni HTA mereka berkawan dengan Israel sebab mereka tak suruh Israel keluar daripada sini. Okey, banyak syubhat ada dekat sini. Tetapi kalau secara hikmah, secara yang akal, tak boleh kacaulah mereka. Mereka tak ada apa-apa benda yang mereka nak kacau Israel atau dia nak berperang dengan Israel. At least bagi masa sekarang. Setahun, 2 tahun dan kemudian apa berlaku, wallahu a'lam. Okey. Terima kasih banyak. InsyaAllah Dr. Qutub dia akan tambah lagi.
Jazakallahu khairan. Okay, so what I can tell you is AI is not quite there yet, which is good news for interpreters because otherwise they'd be out of a job. But yeah, that wasn't the best rendering, I'm sure, of what Dr. Abdulrahman just said. So what do you want me to say now?
That's the مستقبل سوريا زين.
يا شيخ مستقبل؟
نعم.
مستقبل مشرق؟
إن شاء الله.
أو صعب؟
والله
أحداث
أنا كنت صعب. أنت ضبطها.
So it seems he gave you a slightly, maybe a darker view. Let's put it this way. These ahadith of the fitan, while it's showing that those end time scenarios are going to be happening here, it shows you the importance of that area. Yes, that may mean that there are going to be battles, and of course we know the epic battle, the Armageddon, if you will, is going to be in Syria, as we know. As the Sheikh mentioned, the Romans will be in Marj Dabiq, right, near Aleppo. But where will the Sunnis be? Did you tell them, Sheikh?
No.
They will be in Al-Ghuta, Al-Sharqiyya, in Damascus, right around. The Ghuta Sharqiyya that Bashar starved to death. This Ghuta will be the stronghold. The Prophet ﷺ said that the stronghold of the Muslims, Fustatul Muslimin Yawm al-Malhama, will be in Ghuta, close to Damascus. So essentially that's telling you that Armageddon is happening there. But that shows you the importance of the area, how critical it is. So when we say something, and I used to say this in 2012, and I'm sure a lot of people maybe found it difficult to believe that Syria has so many connections you cannot see. That's why it wasn't that simple. The Syrian people might have wondered, why can't we just get our freedom? Why isn't anyone helping us? Why this? Why that? It's because you are not normal in that way. And maybe you cannot see it, but those connections are there. The globe understands this, the importance of this area, the critical nature of this area. You and I understand it in terms of eschatology that Dr. Abdulrahman was talking about, the hadith. The global superpowers, maybe they don't care about this hadith, but they look at it geopolitically and they understand. They see it from a geopolitical perspective. So, right now, what we can do is we can work. We can work to strengthen ourselves, to make it a better country. We can work to bring back some semblance of Islamic rule. Now that it is back to Ahl Sunnah, it has been ruled for the longest time by this minority that you call the Alawites. So, the Prophet ﷺ told us in the hadith of the end of time that the Khilafah is going to come back. And he talked about Khilafah ala minhaj al-nubuwah. Allahu Akbar. And very interestingly, that hadith does not talk about a gradual coming to Khilafah ala minhaj al-nubuwah. He mentioned gradually nubuwa, prophethood, khilafa ala minhaj al-nubuwa, and then he mentioned al-mulk al-adud and al-mulk al-jabri. So he is mentioning, alayhi salatu wasalam, how it gradually went from prophethood and khilafa to tyranny and persecution. You might expect that after that it will gradually be less persecution and slowly, gradually back to khilafa ala minhaj al-nubuwa. No. He said after al-mulk al-jabri, the tyrannical rule, there will be khilafa ala minhaj al-nubuwa. Subhanallah. So, and this, if the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ is authentic, and some scholars say it is, that khilafa ala minhaj al-nubuwa is going to be in Malaysia?
So far away.
No? In Palestine. Right? The famous hadith of Abdullah ibn Hawala, when the Prophet ﷺ tells him, if the khilafah comes to Bayt al-Maqdis, then the qiyamah is closer to people than my hand is to your head. The khilafah is going there, inshaAllah. So we are going to see, inshaAllah, some bright days, and we hope to see some bright days in Syria as well before we get to the fitan and the malahim. Wallahu a'lam.
Inshallah. Thank you so much, Father Dr. Qutub, for the conclusion. And maybe
Kita buka
we
soalan kepada
maybe we have two questions, only two questions already to the Maghrib. Whoever want to ask question, we'll pass the mic. Inshallah. Cepat.
أنا اجتهدت سيدي تشربوا أنت القهوة المرة صح؟
السلام عليكم. First of all, I want to salute the others for returning the power back to the people. But apa nak angkat Bashar? Saya tengok saya geram, saya tak pukul. Okay, I have
he wants to
issue for so many years. So, yeah, I have followed the Syrian issue since from the beginning for 2011, and I have been to Syria before in Idlib during the wartime. First of all, when the Syrians have formed a new government, as far as I see from the other people's point of view, the world view of Syria right now is the jihadis is taking over Syria. Okay, that's the matter. So what my opinion is, we need to form Syria with a new government with professional. For Jalani, for example, I am afraid that they will take Jalani as a figure of the figure to scare the people around the world. Because Jalani before is a Jabhat Nusra.
Yep.
But I think the jihadist group, they can form a new armed forces for the Syria. So, in my opinion, maybe the new government of Syria, if you want to form a new government, professional government, you can take example or benchmarking. For example, maybe Malaysia. You can learn from Malaysia how to form the government, how to unite all the sectariat in the Syria. So I hope that, I pray that Syria can make a good example, follow a good example like Malaysia, for example, how to form and to unite the Syrian people.
آمين إن شاء الله. بارك الله.
Thank you, brother. تفضل يا شيخ.
لا أنت لا أنت
لا حكام شوية ماليزي.
لا أنت أنا ما بجاوب.
لا إله إلا الله.
Thank you, brother, for the comment. And any question?
Can I say something?
Okay.
Stop me because I can say a lot about what the brother said. First of all, brother, where are you? Brother, the one who commented. Assalamu alaikum. Can I have your good name? Azrul. What does that mean? Not quite sure. What is your name?
أزري
من عصر.
واجعلي وزيرا من أهلي.
You are wazir. Then we take you to Syria.
أشد به أزري.
You become a minister. Okay, so brother, are you ready to send Malaysian ambassadors to help, consultants, to help Syria rebuild? This is the question. You mentioned it. A lot of people are complaining in Syria. Where are the ulama? Why didn't they come and help us? The mujahideen, few of them are ulama and scholars. Where are the ulama? Did they come? Some of the ulama, unfortunately, in Syria were on the side of Bashar, or they were too scared to speak. And some had to leave. Where were the ulama of the ummah? Did they come to help? Maybe they will come now. I agree. But you mentioned it, it's a sore point for us. That, okay, we want to rebuild. Is anyone ready to come and help? Or do we have to do this alone as well? Right? So, you mention it. I don't think anyone would be against it. But are people ready to send experts who have that kind of expertise? Right? To lend to their brothers and sisters to try to rebuild now. Whether it is in terms of, as you said, a professional government, so consultants, right? A technocratic government, and it seems this is the way they're headed, by the way. You talked about Ahmad al-Shara'. It is quite clear that Ahmad al-Shara' understands this now. He does not necessarily want to be the poster boy because exactly this is what our enemies want to do, which is to paint Syria now as being under Al-Qaeda and Jabhat al-Nusra. And I find a lot of the quote-unquote anti-Zionist activists online, unfortunately, very ignorantly spewing this kind of venom, which is, oh, now you're going to be ruled by Al-Qaeda and stuff like that. Then why is the whole country celebrating? Is the whole country Qaeda now? And Subhanallah. مَا لَكُمْ كَيْفَ تَحْكُمُونَ. But the point that we're making, I totally agree with you, by the way. You have to know your environment. You have to know your environment. So definitely, I wish he would move away from the cameras, from the limelight, and let some people now, some experts, a technocratic government take over. Absolutely, okay. But taking into consideration the identity of the Syrian people, and deep in their identity is Islam, which the regime tried to destroy over the course of 50 years, and they were not able to, because the Syrian people came out after 50 years and said, "Man ghayrak ya Allah, we have no one but you, O Allah." Closer to home, do you remember years back when Brunei said, "We are going to implement hudud"? Oh, hudud. Allah Akbar. Everyone is trembling now. Yes, the globe trembled when they said this. Even though they said, we're going to do it in 3 stages. Remember that? 3 stages. We're going to implement hudud. The globe went berserk. People lost their mind. Now, if you take one of the small islands of Indonesia or the Philippines, very small place, maybe a group of us like this, and we say we are going to implement Sharia, Allahu Akbar. The whole globe will come after you. Know your environment. Understand your environment. I agree with you, brother. We need to understand this, and we are hoping that, inshallah, they can take necessary steps in order to stifle the plots of the enemies to ruin the fruits of this great victory.
لا يسأل افتح له مجال السؤال. لا باقي ما سأل.
سؤال dalam online. Allah.
نمشي شيخ. نصلي المغرب 7:30 بنمشي. لازم 7:30 نمشي. صح؟
أو بتحب نروح نصلي هناك؟
إيه نصلي هون أكيد.
نصلي هون ولا هناك؟
ما حيجي لك 8. صلي يا زلمة. Yes.
Question online said that how do you address to those people who are saying it is useless for you to discuss everything about genocide in Gaza, even so it doesn't give any improvement, like Israel will stop bombing Gaza. So that's the question online.
Question is not clear.
How do you say back to people who are saying that it is useless for you to discuss everything about genocide in Gaza, even so it doesn't give any improvement, like Israel will stop bombing Gaza? So how do we
genocide in Gaza? Did we really say something about genocide in Gaza? They're talking about an accusation that some people are putting forth, which is that stop talking about genocide in Gaza because it's useless, because it's not going to stop genocide in Gaza. Is that the question?
Yeah.
Okay, well, technically our topic is Syria, but if شو هذا؟ مداخل هدول عم يقول لك انه ليش عم تحكي على هذا الموضوع ما حتقدر توقفه، فليش عم تضوع وقت الناس؟ مداخلك كأنه
يعني لكن انت ممكن يعني نفيد انه هذه الثوره افادت غزه بيدك انت
لا انت انا ما اعرف شيئا. لا يا شيخ.
Okey, sebenarnya apa yang saya faham, mana-mana tempat dekat negara-negara Islam, kalau mereka ada dapat satu improvement, maknanya ada lagi satu tempat dia akan dapat improvement exactly. Dalilnya daripada hadis Rasulullah bersabda, kalau Syam dia mempunyai masalah, kemudian Yaman dia akan dapat masalah yang sama. Buktinya apa yang berlaku, yang revolusi yang dia berlaku masa yang dia mula dekat Syria, dia dah berlaku dekat Yaman. Dan kita percaya kalau masalah dekat Syria dah selesai, nanti confirm 100% yang dekat Yaman dia akan selesai juga. Dan kesan-kesan dia bukan yang dekat dua tempat ini, tak, dia akan sambung ke negara-negara lain. Itu yang satu antara perkara-perkara yang menakutkan kita. Sebab kalau negara-negara Arab yang lain mereka tidak dapat demokrasi, mereka tidak dapat revolusi mereka berjaya, nanti mereka nak kalahkan revolusi yang ada dekat Syria. Sebab mereka tak mahu rakyat mereka sendiri tengok pada Syria dan dia kata, ni ada satu contoh yang sudah berjaya. Itu masalah, antara masalah-masalah dia sebenarnya. So maknanya kita lagi satu contoh apa yang berlaku dekat Afghanistan. Kesan dia dah sampai dekat negara Islam yang lain. So maknanya masa yang kita nampak ada satu contoh depan kita, maknanya kita ada satu harapan sebenarnya. Kita rasa di dalam hati, kita percaya Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala akan terima doa kita. Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala, kalau ramai orang dia kata kenapa ni revolusi Syria dia ambil macam 13 tahun sampai dia berjaya. Sebab kalau dia berjaya daripada tahun pertama, tahun yang kedua, siapa yang dia akan mengawasi atau dia akan ambil kerajaan? Sebab orang Syria mereka tidak ada pengalaman tentang politik langsung, zero sebenarnya. Kalau dekat Malaysia ada parti-parti politik yang mereka mungkin ambil satu negeri, atau mereka boleh sebenarnya, atau boleh buka sekolah, boleh, mereka ada aktiviti. Tapi kalau dekat Syria mereka tak ada langsung, kita tak tahu. Itulah yang Allah bagi mereka duduk dekat Idlib selama macam 4 tahun, 5 tahun, sampai mereka mampu untuk menguruskan tempat walau tempat yang kecil. Mereka menguruskan keadaan yang ada dekat sana. Mereka dah dapat pengalaman, kemudian mereka baru datang. Contoh dia, masa yang tentera-tentera yang datang daripada Idlib, bukan tentera sahaja mereka datang. Mereka datang sekali dengan polis. Tengok, mereka masuk dekat satu bandar, mereka beritahu semua kita dah ambil bandar ini, tinggalkan polis, mereka sambung. Tentera sambung, siapa yang akan jaga polis? Itulah masa yang Mujahidin daripada utara, mereka lambat sikit yang dekat ni Arrastan Bridge. Mereka ada sampai, sebab yang Mujahidin daripada Dar'a, daripada selatan, mereka ada sampai Damsyik sebelum Mujahidin daripada utara. So mereka lambat macam 3-4 jam. Orang jahat yang pencuri-pencuri, mereka pergi dekat Central Bank dan mereka curi daripada situ. So selama macam 3-4 jam. Kemudian apabila mereka dah masuk dekat sana, dia bawa polis dekat situ. So maknanya mereka dah ada pengalaman. Ni yang sekarang yang dia Prime Minister. Dia sebenarnya Prime Minister yang dekat Idlib hari itu. So maknanya dia ada pengalaman sikit macam mana dia menguruskan satu kerajaan. Wallahu a'lam. Soalan terakhir, boleh bagi.
InsyaAllah. Last question.
Last question.
Want to ask question? Last question?
Nalla Fatimah, bismillah. Apa soalan tadi?
InsyaAllah. Maybe next time, insyaAllah, Doctor.
InsyaAllah. Okay, thank you.
InsyaAllah. InsyaAllah. Before we close our program, we would like to invite...
Can I just say one thing? Sorry, brother. Just one thing. Brothers and sisters, I just ask you humbly, as people who care about what's happening in Syria, and hopefully now understand better what is happening in Syria, help us to dispel a lot of the confusion. I am surprised, subhanAllah, at the amount of garbage that is floating around online, and apparently, and inshallah we will do our part as well, that there's a lot of confusion and misconceptions amongst the Malaysians themselves about what's happening, and the future of Syria, and now you destroyed Syria and this and that, and now forget about Gaza and this, all of this trash. So help us to dispel that confusion, because awareness is so important. Why are we doing this here? Is this going to further liberate more land in Syria? No, this is awareness, and awareness is very important. Public opinion, like it or not, is very important in a world where a person sends one message and it goes in 1 second to everyone, right? And it could be complete trash, but people start thinking, is this true, really? Someone sends me a message asking, I don't know where they got it from. They said Jolani was trained by the Zionists, or he attended a Zionist school. So I just sent a laughing emoji. How did you get this? But it will go, and people will start asking, really? Is this true? And some will believe it? So awareness is very important. So help us. Barakallah fikum.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Qutub. And for last, inshallah, we will invite Dr. Fatimah from Oxford, and we were very delightful for this part from Office of the Director, Student Community Engagement. Thank you so much.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. And since we're going to start very soon, I don't want to be too long. First of all, on behalf of the Director of the President, we would like to thank PTPM and our speakers. Thank you so much.
Okay, terima kasih banyak.
Thank you also, students.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. لكن نصلي هنيك ابو هشام نصلي هنيك
لانه هون اقرب لنا السياره، اذا بدنا نروح ونرجع بدي ياخذ وقت ترى.
صح كلامك صحيح.
لان باقي معنا 50 دقيقه بالضبط.
خليني نشوف الله اكبر الله اكبر. خليني نشوف شو وضع الناس. حيرنا يا إلهي. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. عبد الرحمن مقري، أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. يعتذر، حالة طارئة جدا. طيب نشوف هذا. ايوه ايه الله يجزيك الخير. عشر دقيقة للمطعم، ما في زحمة. 11 دقيقة. إذا صلينا هون إمتى بيصلوا؟ بعد 10 دقائق ولا 5؟ إقامة.
لا سمعت يتواصل معي.
ايه جاي؟
هنا.
Sorry, as I was saying, first of all, thank you on behalf of the Office of the Deputy Director, Student Development and Community Engagement. The Deputy Director of Dr. Carlson conveys his apologies for not being able to attend. So thank you to our speakers, Dr. Qutub and also Dr. Abdulrahman. I think this is one of the Speakers Corner program that the Deputy Director's Office really encourages because it allows an opportunity for our students to engage in intellectual and informed conversations with people who can really deliver messages that are not false, and also it helps us think about our ummah and also think about how we can contribute and be part in terms of your abilities and where you can become as students at the higher learning institutions. So we will welcome this events and we hope that students will pick up this opportunity to conduct more programs like this and invite speakers who will be able to generate more understanding and give awareness on programs and also on matters around our globe, whether it is locally or internationally, that gives you the right information and helps you engage so that you can fulfill your duties, or we can all fulfill our duties as Khalifah of Allah. So as it is time for Maghrib, I think that is all for me. Thank you again and congratulations to PPPIM.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Fatima. And actually, we collaborated with PPPIM and UIAM, insyaAllah. So, and also the speaker and mic from Harmony, we are brother from Harmony. So we are actually collaborated many clubs, and we went together, and we Alhamdulillah today officially associated in this program. So inshallah, we are in the end of our session today. Thank you so much, Fadil Dr. Said Qutub, and Fadil Dr. Muhammad Abdulrahman Al-Uthmani for coming today and give us a very delighted forum. Inshallah, we will have another discussion maybe in the future Syria after on the what will be in the future Syria, inshallah. Inshallah. So you have the photography here. Okay.
Yeah. Sini ya. Kita bawa dia ke sana.
Just stay where you are.
حديث جوامع الكلم مذاق الشهد عند فمي سنفهمها ونحفظها